I sat across from Cathy and asked how she planned to address the officiating issues in our league. Her response was, well, only the losers complain about the refs. I also asked how she planned to fix the fact that players like Caitlin, Angel, and Paige, who are clearly driving massive revenue for the league, are making so little for their first 4 years. Her response was, Caitlin should be grateful she makes $16 million off the court, because without the platform that the WNBA gives her, she wouldn't make anything. And in that same conversation, she told me, players should be on their knees thanking their lucky stars for the media rights deal that I got them.
Did you really say that Caitlin Clark should thank her Heavenly Stars, that she wouldn't be worth anything if she wasn't playing in the WNBA? Did you really say? See, all of these things that Napheesa Collier brought up, I'm sitting back going like this. Girl, you got my ears perked.
It was the most shocking exit interview in the history of professional basketball. With the WNBA playoffs still underway, one of the league's biggest stars, a quiet superstar, a true power broker, stepped forward to issue a stunning indictment. She declared, flatly, that the organization operates under the worst leadership in the world. The question is simple, but seismic. What pushed a quiet star to the brink of open revolt?
She basically provided no defense of herself. I mean, I don't have the statement directly in front of me, y'all.
Mischaracterization.
A mischaracterization.
She was disheartened.
I'm disheartened at the mischaracterization. What? That was I'm not saying Napheesa Collier personally attacked her, like personally. I'm not trying to personalize it like that, but I'm just saying her words were piercing. That was an attack against your leadership. It was an attack against your integrity. It was an attack against your character.
The fuse was lit during the playoff semifinals when Napheesa Collier, three-time All-Star and cornerstone of the Minnesota Lynx, stood at the podium after a grueling series. Cameras were rolling, reporters leaned in, and instead of the standard cliches about effort and execution, Collier unloaded. Her words sliced through the noise of sports commentary like a blade.
I want to be clear, this conversation is not about winning or losing. It's about something much bigger. The real threat to our league isn't money, it isn't ratings, or even missed calls, or even physical play. It's the lack of accountability from the league office.
The room fell silent. For years, Collier had been respected as quiet, calculated, the kind of star who led with her play, not her mouth. And yet, here she was, detonating a truth bomb live on national television. But this was not a single outburst. This was the eruption of pressure that had been building for seasons. To understand it, we have to rewind. Behind the glossy highlight reels and carefully curated marketing campaigns, there has been unrest. Travel conditions, players squeezed into middle seats while NBA counterparts fly private, salaries that pale in comparison to global alternatives, health and safety corners cut, broken promises on league investment. Privately, players whispered about mistrust in leadership. Publicly, the commissioner's office projected calm, insisting progress was steady. But deep down, the players knew something had to give. And in that post-game moment, Collier was the one who finally said it aloud. The fallout was immediate. Social media exploded. Fans split into camps, some applauding her bravery, others accusing her of damaging the league at its most critical moment. Former players chimed in, many confirming that the frustrations weren't new. Reporters scrambled for statements. Coaches held their breath. But the commissioner's office? Silence. For 48 hours, there was no rebuttal, no acknowledgement, just a vacuum where leadership was supposed to be. And that silence spoke louder than words. The story bled beyond sports pages into mainstream news. Outlets framed it as a battle between a rising league and the very stars who made it marketable. The timing, in the middle of the playoffs, only heightened the drama. And slowly, the truth began to crystallize. Collier had not acted alone. Whispers suggested her words reflected the sentiment of dozens of players, maybe even entire locker rooms. This wasn't a lone wolf. This was the spark of organized defiance. Follow the money. That's where the cracks become undeniable. WNBA revenues have risen, bolstered by new sponsorship deals, broadcast contracts, and a surge of attention around breakout stars. But where is that money going? Players argue they don't see it. Team owners insist expenses are heavy. The league office maintains balance sheets are under control, but investigative reports hint otherwise. Conflicting numbers, promises of transparency, never delivered. Players who once trusted the league to act in good faith now suspect something more sinister. a shell game of finances, with leadership protecting its own interests at the expense of those on the court. And suddenly, Collier's phrase, "worst leadership in the world," feels less like hyperbole and more like a diagnosis. The pattern isn't new. Back in 2018, a travel scandal forced players onto commercial red-eyes between playoff games. In 2020, during the pandemic bubble, players lived through grueling conditions while the league struggled to adapt. Each time, leadership promised reform. Each time, change came slowly, if at all. By 2023, even as the league touted record viewership, the players were still asking the same questions, and Collier's eruption proved patience had run out. The commissioner's move was delayed, but inevitable. She appeared on camera, delivering calm but unconvincing words.
Commissioner Engelbert released the following statement in response to that. Quote, "I have the utmost respect for Napheesa Collier and for all the players in WNBA. Together, we have all worked tirelessly to transform this league. My focus remains on ensuring a bright future for the players in WNBA, including collaborating on how we continue to elevate the game. I am disheartened by how Napheesa characterized our conversations and league leadership, but even when our perspectives differ, my commitment to the players and to this work will not waver."
She promised dialogue, but gave no specifics. It was damage control, thinly veiled as leadership, and it didn't work.
Cathy Engelbert, the commissioner of the league, let me say for the record, you should resign. You need to resign. Period.
Players, emboldened by Collier's stance, began speaking up. Some publicly, others in coded social posts. A few stars hinted they were ready to boycott promotional events. In group chats, plans formed. The league had a mutiny on its hands, one that no PR statement could extinguish. The battle lines were clear, players versus leadership. But the battlefield was layered. One front was financial, the collective bargaining agreement, with clauses and loopholes ripe for confrontation. Another front was cultural, a fight over whether the league truly respected its players as partners or treated them as pawns. And still, another front was historical, echoes of past revolutions in women's sports, from tennis to soccer, where athletes had to force institutions to evolve. This wasn't just a WNBA story anymore. It was part of a global narrative. Women athletes demanding equity, demanding dignity, demanding power. Midway through the storm, testimonies emerged. Players shared stories of exhaustion, back-to-backs with commercial flights and delayed connections, promises of medical support that never arrived, a league office more focused on optics than outcomes. And as fans listened, they began to shift too. Some were furious at leadership. Others felt conflicted, torn between loving the league and questioning its integrity. Sponsors called meetings. Analysts compared the crisis to labor strikes in other pro sports. The media didn't just cover games anymore. They covered the fight for the soul of the league. And then came the question that scared the commissioner most. If players no longer trust the WNBA, where will they go? Already, Europe and Asia have offered lucrative contracts. Already, stars spend off-seasons abroad to earn what the league doesn't provide. What if the WNBA loses not just games, but its best players permanently? The idea of a shadow exodus suddenly became real. Imagine opening night next season, and half the marquee names are gone. Imagine sponsors watching their investment evaporate. Imagine fans realizing the league they supported had collapsed not from lack of interest, but from lack of leadership. The players now stand at a crossroads. Two paths stretch before them. One, unity, rallying together, forcing change from within. The other, collapse, stars walking away, leaving the league crippled. For the commissioner, it is her last stand. Her legacy won't be measured in TV ratings or attendance figures, but in how she answers this rebellion. Does she dismiss it? Or does she do the unthinkable, admit fault, and rebuild from the rubble? History is watching. In the end, this was never just about basketball. It was about power. It was about dignity. It was about whether those who give everything on the court are valued beyond the scoreboard. Collier may not have planned to ignite a revolution, but revolutions rarely start with plans. They start with someone finally saying out loud what everyone else was too afraid to whisper. Her words have echoed across locker rooms, arenas, and boardrooms, and now the league can never return to silence. The playoffs will crown a champion. The season will end, the headlines will fade, but the reckoning will not. Because one player stood at a microphone, stared down the cameras, and told the truth. This is the worst leadership in the world, and the world listened. For 48 hours, there was no rebuttal. No acknowledgement, just a vacuum where leadership was supposed to be. And that silence spoke louder than words. The story bled beyond sports pages into mainstream news. Outlets framed it as a battle between a rising league and the very stars who made it marketable. The timing, in the middle of the playoffs, only heightened the drama. And slowly, the truth began to crystallize. Collier had not acted alone. Whispers suggested her words reflected the sentiment of dozens of players, maybe even entire locker rooms. This wasn't a lone wolf. This was the spark of organized defiance. The response across the WNBA wasn't measured. It was electric. Breanna Stewart's viral tweet, Elena Delle Donne's stinging confirmation that the commissioner hadn't even acknowledged her retirement. The message was clear. Unity. Follow the money. That's where the cracks become undeniable. WNBA revenues have risen, bolstered by new sponsorship deals, broadcast contracts, and a surge of attention around breakout stars. But where is that money going? Investigative reports hint at a deeper deception. Players and their union advisors allege a deliberate accounting practice that hides the league's true profitability. The WNBA reports massive losses, sometimes up to $50 million in a year, even as revenue and team valuations skyrocket. This is a common tactic. The league is structured so that many expenses, like the owner-mandated charter flights, are accounted for against the central league office, making the league look unprofitable on paper. Meanwhile, team valuations and expansion fees, the real measure of the league's asset value, go straight into the owner's pockets. This shell game is designed to maintain leverage in the CBA, to be able to tell the players, we can't afford you. Collier's time running the new league, Unrivaled, transforms her from a critic into a competitor who holds the blueprint. Unrivaled was built to fix the WNBA's biggest problems, proving that better treatment is fiscally possible. She learned firsthand that the league's issues, poor facilities, low pay, were not financial necessities, but management choices. When the WNBA says they can't afford to pay players a higher percentage of revenue, Collier has a simple counter. I did it, and I'm not a billionaire. The league can no longer claim to be operating in good faith when one of its own players has created a superior labor environment right on its doorstep. The players know the league has leverage over its own owners, the threat of a player exodus. If the league fails to invest, many of its veteran stars, who are now poised to be free agents, will not sign back. They will retire, join Unrivaled, or simply stay overseas where they are paid competitively. The league risks trading its current stability for financial control. Complicating this battle is the issue of player prioritization. The WNBA wants its players to stop going overseas, but that money is often necessary for a living wage. The league is now reportedly pushing for a new rule that would fine or even suspend players who arrive late to WNBA training camps due to international commitments. The ultimate weapon is the lockout. With the current CBA deadline fast approaching, both sides are making preparations for a potential work stoppage. For the league, a lockout would be catastrophic, halting the momentum of the Caitlin Clark era. For the players, it would be a financial sacrifice, but a sacrifice they appear willing to make. This struggle is a mirror of the NBA's history. Decades ago, NBA owners resisted every step toward free agency and revenue sharing. They lost. That battle created the modern $10 billion NBA. The WNBA is now standing at the same precipice, but with a different variable: the vast, powerful shadow of the NBA and its owners. This isn't just about the WNBA's books. It's about whether the NBA's controlling interests will allow the Women's League to achieve the true financial independence they deserve. Collier's exit interview transcended sports. It became a cultural moment about labor, gender, and economic equality. By focusing on player safety and the hypocrisy of rookie pay, she made the league's shortcomings impossible to ignore. Her call for accountability has given the WNBPA a moral high ground they have never before possessed. This is a generational shift. The players who built this league operated on a principle of gratitude. They were happy just to have a league. This new generation, Collier, Clark, Reese, operates on a principle of value. They know they are the show. They are saying, we are not here to be grateful. We are here to be paid and to be protected. Collier's words were a declaration that the era of accepting scraps is officially over. For Commissioner Engelbert, the timing could not be worse. Having touted her successes in securing the massive media deal and expansion, she now faces a legacy defined by this one press conference. The consensus from league insiders suggests this public confrontation might be the end of her 7-year tenure. Her future, and the WNBA's immediate stability, is now inextricably tied to her next move. Will she negotiate in good faith, or will she double down on the control that sparked this revolt? The WNBA stands at the edge of its most explosive transformation. The money is there, the interest is there. The only thing missing is leadership that treats its players as the indispensable partners they are. Napheesa Collier may yet be fined for speaking her truth, but the price of that fine is small compared to the price the WNBA will pay if it ignores her. The reckoning is here, and for the first time in history, the players are not asking for change. They are demanding the keys to the future.